Yeah, so one thinks of classical Germany and Prussia, which is northern Germany, or even Saxony. It's many incarnations over time, from the days of Charlemagne to the days of the Roman Empire to the days of Adolf Alois Hitler, the partly Jewish failed artist from Austria, who first inspired on a mass scale the idea of the Roman salute, the Roman eagle, the sun wheel, the racial purity of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, supposed Aryan or Nordic man. When one thinks of Germany, perhaps this comes to mind. The earliest historical representation of Germany, or ancient Gaul as it was called, was from different Greek philosophers such as Herodotus and even Julius Caesar, who conquered Gaul, which was all of France and Germany at that time. Not only that, Julius Caesar brought back 2 million slaves, women and children, and killed 1 million Germanic men in his conquest of that area of the continent. He described them as being clad in nothing but mud and long-haired naked berserkers, for the most part, carelessly flinging themselves into Bacchic fury in battle. A more comical representation. But when one thinks of Germany, you do not think of the blackface, the African. This great man of history, a hidden man of history, Angelo Soliman of Prussia. Yes, he walked with kings. Emperor Franz Joseph counted him as a close friend and confidant. He came as an African tribesman in servitude, but ended up as worshipful master of a lodge in Vienna, long before his Negro counterparts in the United States established a Paul Lodge. He served as worshipful master of a lodge in Austria, seen here in the royal portrait, perhaps giving a Masonic sign. Not only that, he was tutored to the emperor's household, including scholastically educating the heir to the throne, Aloysius I. Yes, this man lived amongst these great Prussians, who, for their warlike savor and their intellectual achievements, were feared all throughout Europe by the French and the English as the next great conquerors of that continent. But yet, this Negro from Africa in Prussia not only ascended to a like status amongst the other great Germanic royals and nobility of his day, he married into the nobility himself, marrying the widow of a famous colonel of that time. So once again, we have another example of, in history, the mixing between the dark and the white races in Europe in nobility, such as with the black men of Moret, and other similar like stories which we shall flesh out of the modern history. This great Negro man in the history of Germany also was an intimate friend of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the famous boy prodigy turned classical composer in the Germany of that day, who was featured in the very popular movie that came out in the 80s. But also, Masonic Lodge records, according to historical sources, show that they were involved in Freemasonry together, and he also helped to initiate Voltaire in the True Harmony Lodge in Vienna, Austria, in the late 1700s. Angelo Soliman, a great black man of history, who yet we know so little about. Why have we not been told about this man during Black History Month? Why is his name not emblazoned all across different black educational sources? This is an exception to the rule that needs to be flushed out. A black man in high Prussian society, amongst scholars and the wheeler dealers and intellectuals of that day. He achieved the high lofty position that he received in Prussian society because, as the attendant to the general and emperor, he saved his life in battle. And this display of valor and courage was responsible primarily for his ascension upon the social ladder. And that is what is so striking about the story of this man, because despite what you might think of the 1700s in European society and their ideas on race, because these were the days of high colonialism, when the 4 or 5 great powers of Portugal, the Dutch, the English, and the French all went and colonized Africa and raped the mother continent of the culture, the heritage, the history, and her riches. But yet and still, when they saw the integrity, the courage, the intellect, and the promise of a young Negro from Africa and what he showed, they greeted him as a peer, and they saw past the color of his face, and he was accepted as a true equal in European high society during the days of the American Revolution, long before Barack Obama. And Germany put his body in a museum for all to see as a mystery of history.